All right, today we're jumping into one of the most incredible ideas in all of artificial intelligence. It's the concept that literally taught machines how to be creative. We're talking about generative adversarial networks, or as you probably know them, GANs. So let me ask you this. Can a computer be an artist? For the longest time, the answer was a pretty firm no. I mean, sure, AI was great at recognizing stuff, but creating something totally new, something original, that felt human. But back in 2014, one single idea changed everything. And that idea was the Generative Adversarial Network. It was introduced by Ian Goodfellow and his team, and honestly, it's just brilliant. A GAN is basically a system where you pit two AIs against each other in this constant, high-stakes competition. And it's that very competition that unlocks the machine's ability to create stuff that looks unbelievably real. So to really get how this works, we're going to walk through this story. First, we'll look at how AI made that huge leap from just recognizing things to actually creating them. Then we'll get to the fun part, the game between a forger and a critic. We're going to meet both of these players, see how their rivalry makes them both stronger, and then we'll check out the absolutely wild results. Okay, first chapter. For decades, AI's main gig was basically sorting things. It would look at a picture and say, yep, that's a cat, or listen to your voice and type out the words. Useful, for sure. But GANs, they were a completely different beast. They weren't designed to recognize anything. They were built to generate, to make something brand new right out of thin air. The real genius of GANs is that the core idea is so simple, you can explain it in one sentence. What if you could make an AI better by giving it an enemy, a rival, that's always calling it out, always pushing it to do better? That little bit of conflict, that's the engine that powers this entire thing. And that brings us right to our game. This is a duel between two highly specialized AIs. And to make this super clear, we're going to give them some cool names. We'll call one the forger and the other the critic. Okay, so on one side you have the forger. Its technical name is the generator. Its only mission in life is to create fakes. Fake pictures, fake music, you name it. And it wants to make them so good that you can't tell them apart from the real deal. And on the other side, you have the critic, or the discriminator. Its job is the polar opposite. Become an expert at spotting every single one of those fakes. All right, let's meet our first contestant, the forger. This is the artist in the duo, the creative mind that's trying to make something beautiful out of, well, nothing. Now, the forger's mission is pretty ambitious. It's trying to create a forgery so perfect, so convincing, that it can fool the world's greatest expert, our critic. It's not just making a cheap copy, it's trying to learn the very soul of what makes a picture real, so it can fake it perfectly. So how does it pull this off? It actually starts with just a bunch of random noise. Think of it like static on an old TV, a totally blank canvas. From that static, it generates something new, like an image of a person's face. Then it goes to the critic, shows off its work, and basically asks, so, what do you think? Is this legit? The ultimate goal for the forger is to get the critic to slip up and say, yep, that looks real to me. Every single time it fails, every time the critic catches the fake, the forger takes that feedback and learns from it. It's this non-stop cycle of trying, failing, and getting just a little bit better until its fakes are flawless. Now let's meet our other player. If the forger is the aspiring artist, then the critic is the snooty art authenticator with a magnifying glass and an eye for every tiny mistake. The critic has one job, and one job only, to tell what's real from what's fake. It's what we call a binary classifier, which is just a fancy way of saying it can only give two answers, real or fake. That's its entire purpose. So its process is super methodical. It gets shown a whole lineup of images. Some are 100% genuine, pulled from a real dataset, and mixed in are the latest attempts from the forger. For every single one, it has to make a call, real or fake. And here's the kicker. Its decision gets sent right back to the forger as feedback. So you have to remember, the critic's only motivation is to be right. It wants to get better and better at identifying the real stuff as real and, just as important, to catch every single forgery and slap a fake label on it. And this, right here, this is where the magic really happens. This constant tug-of-war between the forger and the critic is not just a game. It's an incredibly powerful way to train an AI. It's called adversarial training, and it shows how competition can literally create perfection. The technical term for this is a min-max game. It's a classic idea from game theory, where you have two players with perfectly opposite goals. One player is trying to minimize a value, while the other is trying to maximize that exact same value. And this is just the perfect way to visualize it. The forger is desperately trying to minimize the chance that its fake gets spotted. At the exact same moment, the critic is trying its hardest to maximize its ability to spot that fake. They're locked in this perfect, endless battle. Now imagine this game playing out not once, but millions of times. A really cool thing starts to happen. As the forger gets a little bit better, the critic has to get smarter to keep up. But as the critic gets smarter, it forces the forger to get even more creative. They're basically training each other, pushing one another to become absolute masters. So where does this all lead? What happens at the end of the game when the forger gets so good that it can actually fool the critic pretty much every time? Well, that's when things get really interesting. Welcome to the dawn of synthetic reality. What you get at the end isn't just a copy. It's brand new, completely synthetic data, images, music, text, that was generated from pure noise. And it's often so good, so realistic, that it's nearly impossible for a person to tell that it's not real. And this is not just some neat party trick. The real-world applications are huge. GANs are being used to create original pieces of art, to generate characters for video games that look like real people, and even to create synthetic patient data to help train medical AIs without violating privacy. The possibilities are just exploding. Which leaves us with one last, kind of profound thought to chew on. This whole game between the forger and the critic is designed to create a perfect fake. But when that AI-generated stuff becomes truly, completely indistinguishable from the real thing, what does the word real even mean anymore?